Shalom, Israel. So, this lesson is going to be entitled The Hidden Ones. I'm just going to keep this very brief. A few years back, I wanted to get the Xbox One, but I decided not to because, video games are mostly a waste of time, right? But it just so happened that I was curious about the storyline to a game that I wanted to get, which is called Assassin's Creed Origins. And so I watched the video for this walkthrough and all the cutscenes on YouTube. And well, first of all, let's look at the title. The title is called Assassin's Creed Origins, right? So, Esau, he knows his history. And when he puts things in titles and when he puts things in the movies or games, he knows what he's doing, right? Origins, because the so-called melanated man, the so-called dark-skinned man, is the first man, and that's the origins of man, right? So in this movie, your main character Bayek is a black man, right? So you got the title. They had other games from Assassin's Creed. One is called Valhalla. They have different titles depending on what time period they were in, but they call this one Origins, and this is the only one to have a black leading character. So you think about what he's putting in your face, what he's trying to show you, right? Who was the first man on this earth, right? Who was the original? That's why when you go anywhere in the world and you see old ancient ruins, whether you're in Egypt, whether you're in Mesoamerica, whether you're in Spain, whether you're in Mexico, whatever, you'll find ancient ruins that were built by so-called black men, from thousands of years ago, right? And the deeper you dig, the more blacker the history goes, right? So you tell me why they call this game Assassin's Creed Origins, right? And this particular title is called The Hidden Ones. So as you can see on your screen, these are the two main characters in this game. They're both so-called black men, so-called Jakes. So and throughout this game, it takes place in ancient Egypt, and you are leading a group that's trying to free the slaves that are held captives by the Romans, right? So, as an Israelite, you say deja vu, all throughout history, this has been the story, right? We've been captive to the other nations, right? And then the Most High, we turn back to the Most High, then he saves us out of it, right? But then we turn our face away from him, and then, right? And then we're back in that situation all over again. These characters, right? Even though they're Jake, in the video game, they're talking about Aten and Ra and these Egyptian gods, right? So because they're Jake, and in Deuteronomy 28 it says that you will be following other gods, wood and stone, right? So we're not in our own culture, we're into other people's culture and doctrine and belief systems, right? So they're worshiping the Egyptian gods in this game. They're looking up to the Egyptian gods in this game, right? And not to the gods of their forefathers, the God of Israel, Yahuwah. So, the title. So in the game, you lead this sort of revolt where you go around Egypt and you're freeing these slaves that are held captive by the Romans, right? And just how everything looks is very particular, and every detail in the game. You notice everything. Someone put a lot of thought into that, even the clothing, the way they dress. At one point, the lead character who is captured by the Romans is put onto a cross, similar to the same way Yeshua was put on the cross, right? So he was going to be tortured by the Romans, this was the common way that the Romans tortured people, by hanging them on the cross, similar to how it describes in the Bible with Yeshua or Jesus, right? So the main character is put on a cross, but he escapes out of it, helped by his companions. But yeah, so, and the title, The Hidden Ones, really stood out to me because I remembered a scripture in the Bible that talks about the hidden ones. So who are the hidden ones? So let me just read that scripture that came to my mind. And let me tell you this. Esau created this game, and he knows exactly what he's doing by naming this Assassin's Creed Origins, The Hidden Ones, right? So that tells you a lot about what this game is about, and the history, and a lot was put into this game. It's real history that actually happened, right? So let's go to Psalms chapter 83. Let's start at verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. Right? Let me continue on, then I'll explain. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, Edom being the white man, the Ishmaelites, which are the Arabs, of Moab, which are the Chinese, and the Hagarenes, which are Africans, right? So this scripture, the thing that jumped out to me was they have consulted against thy hidden ones. So who are the hidden ones? Who in this world is Israel according to the scripture? But for the most part, they don't know that they're Israel. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says that you will deter from your heritage. You will be cut off from your heritage. So you won't know who you are. You won't know your history and your culture and your language and your names and everything. Right? That was slavery that cut us off from knowing our heritage. Because if we started speaking Hebrew, then we were beaten or killed or whatever. Right? So the hidden ones in this time period is the majority of Israel, which are so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. They don't know that they're Israel, right? They don't know that according to the scriptures, they're Israel, right? We know that the southern kingdom, which is Judah, Benjamin, Levi, which are the African Americans, the Caribbeans, and the Haitians, in Deuteronomy 28, it talks specifically about slavery and the 400 years of slavery that they would have to serve for their enemies. So we know that these so-called black people are the from the prophecy in Deuteronomy 28, they are the children of Israel. But we also know that the Native Americans and the Latinos are also children of Israel. And the reason we know that is because one is the Los Lunas Decalogue stone, which I believe was in Ohio, and that stone was found, and that stone was carved in a time when there was only Native Americans in that region. This was pre-white man, right? And this stone had the 10 Commandments carved into it, right? Not only that, there's numerous artifacts that were found that have Hebrew writings in them, and the commandments and parts of the Torah that are written in them, and the chiefs, many chiefs of the Native Americans wore the same breastplate that the Hebrews wore, which had the 12 stones representing each tribe of Israel, right? So we know through these things that have been found where only certain groups existed and lived, we know that the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, we are the children of Israel, right? We know not only by the scriptures, not only by DNA, not only by archaeology and history, traditions that are told, passed down from father to son throughout, that people still keep in Africa, right? We know through the Spirit, the Most High Spirit bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of Israel, right? So, as I said before, thy hidden ones, right? So the hidden ones, why are we hidden? Because we don't know that we are the Israelites of the Bible. We just think that what we're told, what we are according to the television, according to church, school, our school system, which is, oh, we're black. Oh, we're Native American. Oh, we're Latino. We're Honduran. Or we're Jamaican. Or we're Colombian or Cuban. Right? Or we're Aboriginal. These are all bywords. The scriptures say that we would be called by all sorts of bywords, which are not our actual name for who we are. That's why when the white man came here, he planned all this to call us by bywords, which don't explain who we are and where we come from. We are the Israelites. There's no African American, there's no Latino American. We are the Israelites. We are the people, the original people of the land of Israel, right? So yeah, when I see the title of this game called The Hidden Ones, the first thing, this is Esau. He knows the scriptures, right? And so he named this game The Hidden Ones because these people that they're freeing in Egypt, they have been scattered to the four corners of the world. There are people, they're Israelites, right? These so-called slaves, right? So let me get another scripture. I want to go to Deuteronomy chapter 30. Let's start. Okay, let's start at verse 3. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 3. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee. Right? You hear that? So the Lord will return and gather thee from all the nations where the Lord thy God has scattered thee. So when did this scattering happen? This scattering of our people happened during the transatlantic slave trade. Our people were taken out of West Africa, out of the nations of Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Senegal. We were taken out of these nations and sold to the so-called white man, sold to the Arabs, sold to the Chinese, sold to the East Indian. We were sold throughout the four corners of the earth. That's why you see, wherever you go in the earth, you see little communities of our people scattered. Like, for example, in India, they have communities called the cities people, which are they're the descendants of so-called African slaves. They are our people, right? In Iran, you have communities, black communities, so-called black communities. And they how did they get there? They got there through the transatlantic slave trade. So they are our people that were taken out of West Africa. And how did we get to West Africa? Well, in 70 AD, the Romans sacked Israel, and so fleeing Roman persecution, we trekked into Israel. No, sorry, we trekked into Egypt, and then spread throughout Africa, mostly into the West, right? Let me continue. So that shows that he says he will gather him from all the nations where the Lord thy God has scattered thee, right? So the Lord purposefully, as punishment for not listening to him, for turning our face away from him, he put us into slavery to all these other nations, right? So that's from disobedience. So what do we have to do? We have to turn back to the Most High, right? So let me continue reading. Okay, so, and will return and gather thee from all the nations where the Lord thy God has scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers, right? So what's that land that our fathers possessed? That's Israel, right? The Most High didn't just promise us one land; He promised us a multitude of lands, right, including America. So He will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers, right? And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, right? We're seeing this COVID-19 explode right now. So all these curses that were put on us, as per Deuteronomy chapter 28, from 15 to 68, all those curses that were put on us, these curses are now going to be put on all the other nations, including the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, right? And these curses the Lord will put these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee, right? So that's talking about the so-called white man, Esau, Edom. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments which I command thee this day. And the Lord thy God will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law, and if thou turn unto the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul. For this commandment which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. Right? So this is the main prophecy that the Lord gave to us. He's saying that if we turn back to him, see, we went into slavery because we were going off. We went against the Most High, and he sent these nations from afar towards us, right? Swift as the eagle flieth. And the eagle is a symbol of America, right? So they're the ones who came after us, right? And so he's saying that if we turn to him and follow his laws, statutes, and commandments, he will bless us. He will bring us from the lands that we were scattered and place us in our land which was promised to our fathers, right? The first covenant with Israel. That's the first covenant that he made with our fathers. And he's going to redeem us, and he's going to reinstate us as the ruling class of this earth, right? This is the promises that the Most High said. He's going to give us back our lands, and he's going to bring the other nations into our hands, that we are going to rule with a rod of iron, right? So all these other nations that they feel they can worship all their gods, and they can eat whatever they want, and they can do all types of wickedness that they want. No, we're gonna bring them into subjection. We're gonna bring them into the fold to follow the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, right? Thus saith the Lord. So with that lesson, I hope you understand who are the hidden ones, and what the Most High God has proclaimed is the inheritance of the hidden ones in the future. and what is to happen of these Gentiles, right? The Most High God said that he will turn these curses upon our enemies, right? Which is what is happening right now with this coronavirus, right? So I just want to say to all Israel, keep enduring, keep the faith, be in continued prayer, be reading in these scriptures and learning. Shalom.